Namaste, greetings. India's space journey has been incredible, and India's Space Agency or ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, has achieved some remarkable milestones in the exploration of outer space. India has developed its own indigenous rockets such as SLV, PSLV. It has launched satellites both in outer space and in orbits of Earth and Moon, and successfully also touched down a rover on the south pole of Moon. Today we shall be talking about one such mission which marked an important milestone in the history of India's space journey. The Mars Orbiter Mission, or unofficially known as Mangalyaan. The Mangalyaan or Mars Orbiter Mission has been a very successful mission and has some remarkable achievements. The Mangalyaan mission was one of its kind outer space mission where India aimed to send a space probe which would be made in India and launched it in India's own developed rocket PSLV and launched it from the Indian soil. India's Mars Orbiter mission is said to be one of the most low-cost budget missions to Mars. The main objectives of the mission were to capture the Martian orbit at an inclination of 150 degrees and by the means of various scientific instruments on board to study the surface of Mars and to study the upper atmosphere of Mars and its constituents and dynamics of the upper atmosphere. Now let us take a short overview of the mission. The budget of the mission was around 450 crores Indian rupees, with the launch of the vehicle as PSLV, or better known as Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. The mass of only the payloads on board was 13.4 kg and the total mass of the satellite was 1337.2 kg. The Mangalyaan mission started by the launch of PSLV C-25 with the space probe on board on 5th November 2013 from Sriharikota Satish Dhawan Space Center in Andhra Pradesh. About 11 months later, the space probe got inserted into the Martian orbit on 24th of September 2014. The planned mission duration was 6 months, but successfully it went on for 7 years, 6 months and 8 days. As per ISRO, in April 2022, the space probe went for an eclipse over 7 hours and then lost contact with mission control. To communicate with the Mars Orbiter mission, the ISRO telemetry tracking and command network was given the job. There were various communication stations in and around the world, starting from Sriharikota, Port Blair in India, and Brunei and Biak in Indonesia. With the help of NASA's Deep Space Network, data was provided from stations in Canberra, which is in Australia, Madrid in Spain, and Goldstone in the west coast of USA, during which the periods where ISRO could not reach out to the space probe. During the launch phase, 2 ships were positioned in the Pacific Ocean for telemetry tracking. The first device, or known as LAP, also known as Lyman alpha meter, which is used to measure the abundance of hydrogen gas and deuterium gas, which is released from a particular particle known as Lyman alpha emission. LAP would be used for a time of 60 minutes or 1 hour during one orbital period. The second device, methane sensor for Mars or MSM, is obviously used for detecting methane in the atmosphere of Mars. The third device, MENCA, which is known as Mars Exospheric Neutral Composition Analyzer, was used to measure the composition of particles in the range of 1 to 300 atomic mass units. The fourth device, TIS, known as Thermal Infrared Imaging Spectrometer, is a device used to measure the thermal emissions from Mars and map the minerals on the surface of Mars and monitor carbon dioxide emissions from the surface of Mars. The last and the final device, MCC, or known as Mars Color Camera, is used to take images and give information to scientists about the feature and composition of Martian surface and monitor the weather and any major dynamic events on Mars. The Mars Color Camera was also used to take images of both Phobos and Deimos, the two moons or satellites of Mars. Talking about the main achievements of Mars Orbiter Mission or MOM, it made India the fourth country to enter the group of nations who have sent a space probe to Mars and the first country to insert its space probe into the Martian orbit on its maiden flight. The first science results were also published in the Geophysical Research Letters, publicizing the measurements taken by MENCA or Mars Exospheric Neutral Composition Analyzer. ISRO had also released the 120-page Mars Atlas on the completion of 1 year of the mission. Lastly, talking about the timeline of the mission, on the 5th of November 2013, the mission kicked off with the launch of the rocket PSLV-C-25 on board the space probe, and there were then a few smaller burns which then subsequently raised the orbit of the space probe around the Earth, and then about 25 days later, which is about 3.5 weeks later, on 25th of November 2013, the space probe conducted a burn for the start of the trans-Mars journey, leaving the Earth's gravitational force and the Earth's orbit or the Earth's sphere of influence. And then about 10 months later, after a few smaller burns on the way, on the 24th of September 2014, in a historic event, the space probe did one last major burn and got inserted into the Martian orbit. After the insertion, at an inclination of 150 degrees around the Martian orbit, the probe had 40 kg of fuel on board. The Mars Orbiter mission, a Mangalyaan mission, has been an important and historic mission with some of the most remarkable achievements. One of the most successful missions has been Mars Orbiter mission of ISRO. Recently, ISRO undertook the Chandrayaan-3 mission, which has been yet another great success, as ISRO successfully conducted a rover and a lander to land near the south pole of the moon. In future, ISRO aims to launch humans to space with the mission of Gaganyaan from Indian soil with an Indian rocket and an Indian capsule. Let's hope for the best for the upcoming missions of ISRO. To know more, I shall put the links down in the description box of the other YouTube videos. Thank you very much and hope to see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching this documentary. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Enjoy the last minute views of the ocean and goodbye.